Can you handle the truth about Canada? You can start by checking out NephilimFilms.com.
Welcome back to the show. We are hitting the home stretch. We're going to take our time with this. We're going to ease into this like a lukewarm bath. Maybe just a hot, not a hot, too hot. We're not going to scare people, but we have Doug Force here. And welcome, Doug. You're making a film called The Myth is Canada.
I am.
And
well, we are, actually. I shouldn't say I am.
Yeah.
Well,
what's
I
happening?
I asked a simple question. In 2017, we're celebrating 150 years of Confederation, are we not? It's
Yes,
all over
we
the
are.
place. They
Yeah.
have big parties this summer.
Yep.
And they say in 1867, the British North American Act caused Canada to confederate.
Right.
In 1889, the Interpretation Act that was created in the UK said that the Dominion of Canada was a colony. So how can we have confederated in 1867 and be a colony in 1889?
Well, then we had the Statute of Westminster. Right.
Correct. That ended the British North American Act. But prior to that ending, they did something very, very smart. Queen Victoria, she wanted to end the monarch of Canada, and in 1893, they did what they call the Statutes Law Revision Act, which took out the enacting clause from the British North American Act, but also more importantly, it took out Section 2 of the British North American Act, which said that there was a monarch in perpetuity through heredity. It eliminated that. So in 1901, when she passed away, the monarchy ended in Canada. So I asked the question,
Okay.
in 1982, when Pierre Elliott Trudeau went to England, what queen was he taking the Canada Act to? Because it certainly wasn't the Queen of Canada. We hadn't had one since 1901.
I, Justin P.J. Trudeau, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors. So help me God.
This year, Eldon Warman, he had a wonderful website called DTax Canada, where I read on DTax Canada many years ago now. He had what they called the Walter Cool letter up there, and Walter Cool was a backbencher
Yeah.
in Ottawa in the 1920s and 1930s,
Yeah.
and he wrote a letter, very famous letter, to René Lévesque in 1976, when René Lévesque was having a big thing in Quebec for the PQ. They wanted to do a big separation.
Right.
And so he wrote a letter saying, Mr. Lévesque, you can't have a divorce without first having a marriage. Canada never confederated. You're already a sovereign nation. So René, he went to Ottawa to
Yeah.
see Pierre Elliott Trudeau, and he went into the office of Trudeau, and he threw the letter at him, and he said, read this and tell me, is it true or not? And Trudeau read the letter, and he said, yes, it's true, but you shut up and go back to Quebec. Here's 2 big suitcases full of money. Now piss off.
Is that what really happened?
Yeah.
And Trudeau knew that?
Trudeau knew it. Of course he knew. All of the premiers, all the prime ministers know it.
Who needs special powers? The politicians. They're the ones who want special powers naturally because they're in the power game. And what they can get from Ottawa, they will have more in Charlottetown, in Quebec City, in Victoria, BC. That's the game of politics, power.
Referring to is what happened in 1982, where he took what was it called? The Constitution, or the Canada Act, 1982. He created in his own parliament. But the problem was that he didn't ask we the people. But
Okay.
Canada is a corporation because that in 1982, if you read the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, one has to understand what a charter is and what you do when you open a corporation. You charter a company.
Okay.
I remember Harper, when he was government a few years ago, he was in an interview in Calgary, and he made claim that the federal government is a de facto government, which means it's an unlawful and illegal government. The Governor General just recently, the one before the one that's in there now, she made it very clear that she was a de facto head of state.
Right?
That's why we need this movie to come out. And that's why we need to stand up against the NWO and make sure that their plans do not succeed, because we have the power. We, the people, have the power.
A boy was born in a hot town, Mississippi, surrounded by four walls that were not pretty. His parents give him love and affection to keep him strong.
Hi, everybody. What you're about to see are some clips from a video produced by Rocco Galati, noted Canadian constitutional lawyer. Listen to what this man has to say about Canada being a dictatorship.
Now, subject to questions, that's all I want to talk about the Bank of Canada, but my gracious hosts here have asked me to briefly talk about some of my other cases and how they're separate or how do they fit in with the Bank of Canada case. So unless I'm boring you, I'll take 5 to 7 minutes and I can just briefly talk about the bigger picture, if it's okay with you. All right, so Machiavelli once said that, you know, the people are most enslaved when they declare themselves to be free, right? That's certainly true here in North America. Ever since we got our Constitution patriated, although there was Quebec got screwed in the back rooms, people have declared themselves to be free through a Constitution, and people just, you know, they've let down their vigilance, and people think they're free here. And it's a delusion. It's a complete delusion. Canada, or places like some of the Nordic countries, were the most peaceful countries in the world, but they're dictatorial. I've been talking about a quiet dictatorship since the Crétin government. For me, it came down with a thump in April 2001 in Quebec City at the Summit of the Americas. That was the statement. You fuck off, you live in a dictatorship. Go home or we'll tear gas you. Okay? That was it. I defended the First Nations at Guffisson Lake. I don't know, who remembers Guffisson Lake? Very few. Lloyd Axworthy and Princess Diana of Wales were touring the world trying to convince the world that we should ban landmines, military landmines. First Nations in northern BC occupied a piece of land they said was stolen from them. The Canadian Army surrounded them and laced the perimeter with the landmines Princess Diana and Lloyd Axworthy were trying to ban over Europe at the same frigging time, right? So the dictatorship, and that was all illegal action under the Constitution. Under our Constitution, you cannot dispatch military personnel against our civilian population. They did the same thing at Oka. That was illegal, completely illegal, contrary to the Constitution, okay? So that was the beginnings of our in-your-face dictatorship. It's all governments, all, you know, we have political parties that just have different football jersey colors, you know? I mean, there's not much of a spectrum, right? We got, you know, so we got orange, we got red, and we have le bleu, not to be confused with Quebecois bleu, you know, we got the Conservatives. So that's it. So it doesn't matter to me which government it is. If they act unconstitutionally, they have to be made to account.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Do yourself a favor. Hit YouTube, search for Rocco Galati. It's worth watching. Hope to see you on my YouTube channel. Bye.
The greatest threat to our freedom of speech, I would say, is political correctness.
So I'm going to start a bit about a personal introduction, and I'm going to say, just so you'll know, and it's important later, that I'm a court expert in Canada on jihadist-based terrorism. This is in the Criminal Court of Canada, the Ontario Superior Court, as well as twice in the Federal Court of Canada. I'm also a court expert on the reliability of intelligence as evidence. And there's a huge story behind that. But anyway, all of this is going to be important later. I'm going to come back to that. But meanwhile, so why do the Islamists, why do they need this M103 motion? It's actually very simple and very clear. The ideology of the Islamist is so abhorrent, so barbaric, so misogynistic, and so anti-democratic that it cannot withstand public debate. It cannot withstand the exposure of sunshine.
For instance, actually, one perfect example, seeing how we're here in Toronto. Toronto police force has a chaplain, an imam, who's educated at the University of Medina, advocates wife beating, advocates some of the worst aspects of Wahhabi Islam. But yet he's a chaplain for the Toronto Police Force. So more people should be questioning the Toronto Police Force and saying, why is that guy your imam? Why not somebody from one of the more modernist organizations? That would be just one approach at the civic, provincial, and federal level.
The greatest threat to our freedom of speech, I would say, is political correctness. Yeah, it's something we should be taking seriously, and if we're not, we can look at France and Belgium and just say that's where we're going in the next few years.